It's episode 56. I'm sorry, I just saw some tweets and I'm chuckling a little bit. But I'm having a good day, and I hope you are too, because it's time for the 56th episode of Live Coding. And we're going to kind of pick up a little bit where we left off on Tuesday. We're going to, and that reminds me, I should probably open Visual Studio. We are going to work on the backend, the ToDo backend project I was working on last time. And if you remember, I got a little stuck there, and I thought I would just save it for the next episode, but I just kind of got like a little bit frustrated. It's like, I'm going to figure this out. So I already got all the tests passing, and I did some refactoring as well. So we'll walk through a little bit of that today, just to kind of show you what I did. And I've got some thoughts about maybe there's some space here for some sort of opinionated framework. Rob Putt 796, hello, thanks for joining. Good to see you.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Al, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. So anyway, that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on TodoBackend today, and we're going to try to deploy. I've already actually deployed it to a Linux VM, and we'll talk about where I deployed that to cloud provider. You're working, but you'll be lurking in chat. That's great. Thank you for just dropping that note there in the channel, Rob. I appreciate that. It's always good to know like who's hanging out and that may be around, even though they're kind of got us on the background. So I appreciate you dropping that note in the chat room. If you hear anything that grabs your attention, just feel free to drop a question in the chat, and we'll get to it. You can always watch it later in the recording. Okay, and so that kind of is my main point here. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. This is a place that is safe for you to ask questions, no matter how stupid you think they are. We're going to get into some Linux and stuff today. So especially in that area, I feel like I'm very underqualified to do that kind of stuff. So if there's anything that you want to ask me or point out that I'm doing something that doesn't make sense, this is the time to do that. So this is a safe place to ask questions. All right, some quick plugs here before we get going. The old team Live Coders here on Twitch/team/Live Coders. This is a bunch of people who are doing live coding similar to me, and we can see who's online right now, but we've got a team of 112. So if you're looking for some live coding action, this is the place to go. Check it out. So we got Pixelogic Dev, Copper Beardy. I was hosting him before I started my broadcast, and myself. So we'll see who's on later towards the end of the stream. This might be a short stream today. We'll see. And we'll raid somebody on the team. If no one's available, then we'll find someone else who's doing coding and raid them. I like to raid around here. Okay. And speaking of, whoops. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, and now we've got awesome developers streams list here. So this is just a big text file on GitHub, and it is a bunch of people who are streaming online, much like the Live Coders team, but this is a much wider list, and it's not just Twitch, it's lots of other places. So it hasn't been updated in a while, but it's a pretty big list. It's a pretty comprehensive list. So if you are doing live coding, you might want to get yourself added here. Just go submit a PR. But if you're looking for someone who's doing some live coding, someone who's doing Linux, for instance, how to code well, Peter Fisher, Andy Lee. Yep, Peter Fisher and Andy Lee, only two that have Linux on their list. So if you're doing some Linux, maybe you can add yourself here and tag yourself as a Linux streamer. But check that out, github/bnb/awesome developer streams. Speaking of old videos, you can watch them on YouTube. After I stream here, I'll eventually export them to YouTube, bit.ly/grovestube, and just keep an eye on the space because it may change once I go to the official Couchbase YouTube channel, which I may do soon. Once I've got events last week and this week that kind of taken up a lot of time, but I'll eventually get to that. TwitchBot is still off. Got some problems. Getting that thing to compile locally here on Docker Compose and try to fix some bugs. So it's very frustrating. Still haven't solved the issue. Posted a Stack Overflow. Still no solution there. I don't know what the heck is going on. I may just blow up Windows and reinstall once I have a little bit of time, which will be never. But TwitchBot is off right now, so that command down there, that bang help command, it's not going to do anything. Sorry for that. Okay, upcoming events. I will be at DevNexus this week, and they are officially sold out. So hopefully you got a ticket, and I'll see you there in Atlanta. I'll be there on Wednesday, but I'll be at the booth there on Thursday and Friday, giving out some cool prizes, doing the digital challenge. This will be fun. Haven't been to DevNexus in a while. Looking forward to it. SQL Saturday, I will be at the Cincinnati SQL Saturday on March 21st. That's a Saturday, of course. So if anyone is in Cincinnati, SQL Saturdays are a great event. They are very inexpensive. Lots of great content for database professionals. Not just SQL, obviously, because I'm going to speak there about NoSQL, actually. So great event, lots of good stuff. Check it out if you're anywhere close to Cincinnati, Ohio. Orlando Code Camp, I will be there March 28th. Me and my colleague, coworker, Eric Bichard will also be speaking there. This is my first Orlando Code Camp. It's one of the bigger code camps in the country, so this will be fun. I'll be speaking there as well. So if you're near Orlando, come check it out. And then I got more to promote after that. But let's get through some of these first, and we'll dig into those more. All right. So today, TodoBackend. So this is something I worked on Tuesday. Go to TodoBackend.com. This is a big showcase of all kinds of different ways to implement the same spec, the same to-do spec. So the TodoBackend has created a front end, and all you have to do is create the back end, give it the URL of the back end, and you'll have a to-do app here. So all of these are examples of how you can build those backends using various programming languages, frameworks, databases that all work on the back end. So lots of examples here. So we can just see, for instance, I'm going to add one to C#, but here's one using Nancy for ASP.NET. Here's one using the normal ASP.NET Web API, and here's one using ASP.NET Core 2, etc. So I'm going to add an implementation to this. That's my goal. I think we should be able to accomplish that today. And it'll be listed here on the site so that people looking for a Couchbase example, ASP.NET Core 3.1, I guess in my case, example, are going to be able to find those there. So this is what we're doing today. And then to actually submit those, there's a link to the TodoBackend GitHub. It's just one big YAML file. And this is where I will make a pull request. You can see 105 people have already done this. But I'll just add one more entry here with my example. And I may add more, right? This is an ASP.NET Core Web API with Couchbase. We could add another one using, I don't know, we could use ASP.NET with Couchbase, or Nancy, or Corevel, or any sort of back-end framework. But of course, my goal is to kind of get Couchbase out there. There's not a single Couchbase example here. So I may have to also, I love this logo. May have to also submit something to add a logo to this tag here. I don't know if that's part of the open source project or not. But anyway, let's get to it. So TodoBackend is running right here. You see I refactored it a little bit. I refactored it to use a repository. Maybe overkill for To-Do, but I wanted to kind of experiment a little bit with some of the things I was doing with Couchbase here, and thought maybe at some point of refactoring some helper methods that I could create, like a little Couchbase helper library. I don't know if anyone would find that useful or not, but the thing with the Couchbase SDK is that it's for everyone to use. So it's very configurable, and there's lots of stuff you can do. But that's great. But if you're getting started, it might be a good idea to have some sort of opinionated helpers that kind of do some of that work for you. Some things that might be confusing, or maybe do some things that you're not aware of right away, because not everyone reads all the documentation, unfortunately. So maybe some helpers to just kind of help get you started, help figure out. Now, I could be completely off base here, but I mean, there are some things I've seen at my time in Couchbase about how people use Couchbase and the kinds of kind of mini frameworks that they build. So I thought maybe we could explore that. But let me just go ahead and make sure this site is running. So I'll bring it over here. So I've got Couchbase running locally. That's good. So I'll go ahead and run this site here. This is all going locally, of course. And so there we go. So then I go back to TodoBackend, and I can say go to the client here. So this is just the front end of the to-do, and I can paste in the URL, the root URL of my backend, and hit go. And you see here I've got 3 items, so I can change this. So I just deleted those from my database. Step 1 is start stream in Streamlabs. Next one is give overview of today's topic. And then plugs. Plug my team. Plug my Twitch team. Plug my events. And then start on the coding. Okay? So that you can see, those are the 5 items I've added. If I refresh this page, those items will still be there. And here's my local site. You can see it's got the same data there. And just to take it a step further, let's log into my local Couchbase and see that in To-Do, I've got those 5 items there. And this is this may be a little weird because I'm using some TodoBackend.com, and it's sort of working with my local site. But that's why we turned on cores, if you remember. If we go back to startup, we had to turn on cores to allow any origin. So normally that kind of operation would be prohibited by a web browser to say, well, you can't make requests to a different sort of domain. No, of course not. But we said we'll allow it. All right. Okay. And then down here, use cores. Right. And so this is a very permissive cores. It allows any origin, any method, any header. Typically, you don't want to do that. But for our to-do example, that's going to be fine. Okay, in the controller. Oh, go back to here. Also, it's nice enough to give us some tests. Whoops, tests. So I can paste that same URL in here and run those tests. And you can see all the tests are passing, which is how I knew the site was working. Of course, once you're green, then you can start the refactoring, which I did some of. So the tests are already written for me, which is very nice. I could duplicate them here in the back end, but the tests are already there written for me, so that's nice. So the home method, this is just going to get all the to-do items. So I created a repository with a get all method, and then I take all those documents that I get and I map them to a view model, which the view model is what I actually return to the browser. And so in my to-do item, this is another thing I refactored, because this is just for viewing. So you can see all these properties are just gets. There's no public sets on them, and they are. I don't know if I did this on Tuesday or not, but it's just doing like a mapping. This is a kind of thing you could do with AutoMapper, but it's simple enough. I didn't really think that was kind of overkill. But it needs the actual item. So this is, you can call this the entity. This is what's actually in the database, to-do item. And also the request, because if you remember the test, they depend on the URL of the to-do site. So we have the title, just gets mapped directly over. The item completed, this is nullable, so I just have it false by default, which if you go back to here and back to the client, you can see that I can mark them as completed, like so. And it changed back to blah, blah, blah because I ran those tests again. So don't worry about that. And then order is just directly moved over, to order, and which is I kept nullable. Okay, so this constructor is the one doing the mapping. And again, I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do, but it made sense to me. And this is just a to-do site after all, and this returns an OK. This returns JSON. Okay, we've got new to do. So when I'm adding a new item to my list, this object comes in. It doesn't have an ID because it's a new item, so I'm just assigning it an ID, and I'm just explicitly saying it's false. It's not completed yet when we're adding an ID. And then I add this repo method, add the ID, and again return that item, this time with ID, return a view of the item as JSON. We have a get, which will get an individual item. So this takes in an ID, and this is a really simple one. It looks it up by ID and then maps it again to the view. So, I mean, one thing that's kind of annoying that I don't know if there's a better way to do this is that I have to remember to map to-do item view every single time. And what I'm afraid of is that me or a team member would forget this and use the to-do item directly, not the view, which we don't want. And there's some ways we could enforce that, but again, this is a to-do app. We're not going to go into it too much. All right, and delete. This could be an optional ID specified here in the URL. So this either deletes everything or deletes one specific item. Could make this 2 endpoints or 2 actions, technically speaking, but we kept it simple and made it 1. So if there's no ID passed in, we're going to, if there is an ID passed in, we're going to delete just that one item. Otherwise, delete everything. And I got repo methods for both of those. And so one of the things I did when refactoring this is kind of keep these bodies as thin as possible in a controller. Which again, that might be overkill for this sort of CRUD sample, but I wanted to do some refactoring exercises here to think about extracting some of the opinions that I've put into this code. And finally, change. This is an update or edit. So 2 things are passed in, the ID and then the actual item we're changing. And this is the one that's a little tricky. I need to think about the actual opinions I've put into this one. All right, but I'm just setting the ID, and we're passing it to an update method. And once it's updated, we'll then get it back out and then return it. So this is kind of the same as the get to do. So we could just redirect to that get to do. That might work actually. It would save us, one line of code here and some duplication. I don't know. All right, but I want to look at the repository. So I've got 6 total methods: get all, add new, get, delete, delete all, and update. And I've not gone full repository pattern here. This is just one method and one interface for that method. I technically don't even need the interface, I don't think, but I thought it would help me think about this some more. So when I create a new to-do repository with Couchbase, I pass in a bucket provider, which I can use to get the bucket, which I called to-do. If we go back over here, we can see that's the name of the bucket, to-do, right there. And then I also have an ensure index method. So this is another thing that's important, because down here you can see we've got the select query here. For that to work, I need to have an index in the database. So what I've done here is I could just do that manually, but I thought, why not just build that into the code and say, if there's, run this create primary index method. If there isn't one, we'll just create it, and I'm not deferring that, so it'll create it immediately. And I'm hoping this does some logic to check to see if that index is already there, or if I need to do that myself. I didn't see any sort of it does index exist sort of thing. So I guess I could say bucket.exist. There's an exist for a piece of data, but not for an index. So I assume this is fine. Get all. This is it's a little dangerous for a few reasons if you're using an actual real production application, not a to-do app, for 2 reasons. One, we're saying select t.star. We're selecting every field from this document. There's only 3, not a big deal. But if it's a bigger document, selecting t.star means we've got to retrieve the whole document every time. And so this indexing, it could improve that. The other thing we're doing is we're selecting everything from to-do. There's no qualification here. There's no where statement. So we're selecting literally every piece of data from the document. Which, if it's if we're adding hundreds or thousands of items to our to-do list, this could start to be a problem. But for our example, this is not a big deal. Otherwise, we might want to revisit how this is queried, and we also might revisit how we're indexing it. And then I'm also saying scan consistency. So, this is, again, just kind of a detail that we want to talk about today. And then a query to return those rows. And the to-do item, so this is representing the actual piece of data in the database, kind of the actual data model, has an ID, title, completed, order. Now in Couchbase, if we look at an item, you can see, I don't have Zoom it turned on. We can see here that the actual document only has 3 fields: title, completed, and order. And the actual ID up there, the 3BE7, etc., etc. Hey, Ken Villar, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming by. The actual ID in Couchbase is not in the document itself. It's metadata about the document. So that is why I have in here this, meta. ID. I want to get the ID as well and map that. So that will map here. So this is a little bit incongruent from the way Couchbase models things, just a tiny bit, because I'm grouping them all together, but technically speaking, these are all in the document and this is in metadata. And that's why I have this part down here that says, okay, if we're serializing this, if we're saving this item to Couchbase, I do not want to serialize the ID because I don't want it to be in the document. I mean, it wouldn't technically hurt, but it would just look like something like this, where I'd have, oh, why that font's so small, ID, and then it would be this right here. Okay, so that's fine. You could absolutely do that. There's no rule against that. But the thing is, there's nothing magic about this ID field. So I could change this to foo, and that's still valid, right? But now, this key up here is restricted. It can't be changed. That's immutable. This down here can be whatever I want it to be. So there's a risk there of introducing some confusion, so I don't want to do that. So this is another opinion that I have. I'm saying, let's not serialize the ID into the document. But if we're getting the document back out, yes, we should deserialize it. And the only way that would ever happen is here, when I'm selecting the ID next to the full document itself. And most times it won't happen if other operations. So, okay. Then add new. It's a very simple insert. So you can see here I'm sort of breaking down. I'm taking the ID and I'm taking the item here. Now the ID is still in this object, but because of that should serialize ID false, this is a JSON Newtonsoft thing, by the way. Because of that, it will be ignored when I insert it. So I'm still using it here, but I'm just ignoring it in the actual content. So again, opinions that I'm imposing. We're going to get the document back out. So we're going to get the item by its ID, put it into TODO item class. At this point, when you get an item out in the result has an ID, but the result value does not contain an ID. So again, this is Couchbase having the ID separate from the actual value. So that's what I have this extra step here to say, okay, set the ID. So I'm thinking rolling this into an opinion might be useful as well. Delete, no opinions necessary here. Delete.remove ID. Easy. Delete all. So there's a couple ways we could do this. We can make this a flush operation, which I actually don't enable flush. Not a good idea to enable flush in production. Probably not a good idea to do this in production either, to, again, delete everything from a given bucket. Not a good idea. Another thing I might want to do is, I've got the bucket name hard-coded here. It might be a good idea to make that not hard-coded, but not a big deal. Okay, so this erases everything. And then update is the last one. This is where I've got some opinions as well. I don't know if there's a really better way to express this, though. But basically, when this item comes in, the way that the spec for ToDo backend works is that it will only pass in the values it wants to update, right? So if ToDo item comes in and it's got title set to something, completed may be null, order may be null. Doesn't mean I want to set completed in order to null. It just means I want to update the title and nothing else. Now, Couchbase allows you to do this. It's called a subdocument operation. So we can update just parts of a document. And so that's what I'm doing here. I've got this mutate in, give it an ID. We're going to mutate this ToDo item. If completed has value, then we're going to upsert the completed to whatever this value is. Otherwise, this isn't going to be part of the expression. And I'll do the same thing for title and for order. And at the end, I execute that expression. So it may be updating all three. It may be updating just one. Hopefully it's updating one of them, right? It could be updating none of them, I guess, which would be weird. But the opinion that I've put it here is that if the value is null, that means we're not going to update it. We're going to ignore it. That is kind of using null as a magic value, and I'm not super comfortable with that. So I've got some thoughts about how to refactor that. So we might come back and revisit this another stream, maybe on next Tuesday, because I will be gone this Thursday at an event. But next Tuesday, we're going to maybe consider refactoring this, maybe encapsulate some of my opinions. But in the meantime, what I've done is I've actually committed this out to GitHub, so I can show you if you want to check out the code. GitHub.com/mgroves is my GitHub, and you can see I've got the TodoBackend here, and so all the code here, and I really don't have a very good README because I forget this is Markdown, not ASCII doc, but you can. It's really simple to get up and running. You need Couchbase server up and running on localhost and a bucket named ToDo. That's the only manual steps you need to have. And anything else, the indexes will be created as I showed you automatically. Everything else will be done automatically. So you can give this a try yourself. I'll put that link there in the channel if you want to go and check it out. Okay, so once I have that in place, now what I want to do is I want to actually get it listed here on the TodoBackend site. I want to get listed with all these other great examples out there. So the way we do that is we can contribute. And so we have to, again, drive the implementation out with tests. We did that already. It is definitely a TODO-like thing, so we did all that. We enabled cores. Okay. Now, to get your implementation listed, we have to have it running somewhere live. And so it suggests Heroku, and then sending a GitHub pull request to that repo, which I showed you earlier. This is a list of them right here. But somewhere live is the key here. So it has to be somewhere, not my local machine. I mean, not my local machine. I could technically do that, but that's not a good idea. I don't want to expose my local machine to the internet just for a to-do app and keep it running indefinitely. So somewhere live. And Heroku is a free and easy way to do that. I don't know. I haven't explored Heroku too much. But what I did come across was just a developers week last week, which was a pretty cool conference, by the way. Pretty JavaScript heavy. A lot of students, a lot of boot camp graduates there who are learning JavaScript and things like that. So it was interesting. A little different than my normal conferences that I go to. But anyway, it was a great conference, and I got a chance to, and I usually try to do this every conference, is go around to all the other sponsors to see what they're up to, see if there's something interesting that they're promoting, maybe potential partnerships with Couchbase, just to see what kind of messaging they're doing, like maybe something I want to borrow or riff on, or something that appeals to me, or what kind of swag they're giving away. Maybe some interesting swag ideas that I could borrow as well for future Couchbase events. But one of the vendors I came across I'd never heard of before, I think because they're brand new, and here it is. I got a sticker from them. Spinup, right there. I'll put it up on close to the camera there. Spinup, the simple no-fuss cloud. This is a relatively new company, from what I can tell, and it is a cloud provider with. I think their appeal is their plan here, their strategy is keep it very, very simple and keep it very low cost. And I was intrigued by this, and plus the $75 they gave me was a very nice little promo. So I asked them, I said, oh, well, what if I want to run Couchbase? What's Couchbase typically, the minimum is 4 cores, 4 gig of RAM. I said, $20 a month, something like that. So I was like, okay, that sounds pretty reasonable. Usually I'm an Azure guy, and I have lots of Azure credit every month. This is one of the reasons I use Azure. But I had this to-do project in mind. I was like, well, I need to run that somewhere. I've already got a VM running in Azure for events right now. It'd be nice if I had a separate thing. And, it's good to get out of your comfort zone once in a while. And so I thought, I'd try Spinup and see how it compares to Azure, compare and contrast. And this might be something I could recommend in the future for people, like on my Twitch channel who want to, experiment with the cloud but don't want to spend a lot of money. So I thought this would be worth trying. So let's see if I want to log in here. I want to make sure there's nothing sensitive on the screen here. Okay. Looks good. So here we go. Here is the Spinup dashboard. And you can, hopefully there's no, let me just check one more thing. I don't want my password to be exposed here. Yeah, okay. So this is it. This is kind of the simplistic part of it, the simple no fuss cloud. So it's simple in the sense of there's not a lot of complicated stuff you have to sift through. It's also simple in the sense of you don't get a lot of frills. You don't get a lot of extra, a million different services like AWS and Azure have, which not everyone needs all those, right? So it's good to have choice out there. But I can go to cloud service here, and I've already created, you can see one VM running Ubuntu, but I create additional ones. And so you can see I've got 3 different regions right now. This is all US based, with a name for me, Tame Toucan. And then I can select what kind of image I want to be on, what kind of OS basically. So here's some Linux versions. I can Windows as well, SQL Server Web, whatever that means. And then there's no snapshots in East. Okay, there's no snapshots of any kind right now. I'm guessing they're going to add those in the future, right? This is from what I can tell, like a very, very new company. So I created an Ubuntu 1804, and then you can select a server type. So small, medium, and large instances. So even the very high end, we're talking $640 a month for 120 gig, 32 CPU, 800 gig storage. That seems like a pretty good price to me. But if you're on the sort of hobbyist, just getting started, just trying to feel up Spinup, just trying to try it out, there's the $5 a month small server. 1 gig of RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gig storage, 100 megabyte network. Or megabits, I guess. That's pretty good. With $75 credit, $5 a month, that gets me at what? Let's do the math here. 75 divided by 5. That's 15 months of a $5 a month server. So 15 months of a server just for stopping by their booth. Pretty cool. Now I don't know, I don't know if this is only supposed to be for Developer Week people or not, but I think they have other promos as well. So definitely check it out. Oh, okay. I just got a message actually from them. If you are interested in trying out Spinup, go to spinup.com, and I've got a code for you. Use code MGroves. This is pretty cool. I've been tweeting with them a little bit while I was learning about Spinup, yeah, you will get an additional $10 of credit on top of your normal $50 credit. So definitely check that out. So I don't know if that $75 thing is a Developer Week only, but check out, you can enter code MGroves and see if that works. And let me know. Let me know if that works. Let me know if you try it. Give you some free credit so you can try it. So anyway, back to what I was doing. Couchbase server, as I said, the minimum requirements is 4 cores or 4 CPUs or whatever, and then 4 gig of RAM. And I said, well, okay, if I did that, I'd have to go up to, looks like one of the $20 tiers or, maybe in a $40 tier for that. And that is what you absolutely should use if you're planning to go to production. There should be several of those, actually. But I said, well, let's experiment. Let's go crazy. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if Couchbase will even run on a machine like this. And if it doesn't, well, then fine, I'll just upgrade. No big deal. But hey, guess what? It works. And here it is. I've got it. I've connected here with Putty, which is my Windows SSH. And that's really hard to see that font. How do I change the font in Putty? Can I change the font in Putty? Special command. Change settings. So here we go. All right, terminal appearance. Is there a font somewhere? Am I not seeing it? Oh, font, here we go. Okay, so Courier News fine, but let's go up to 18. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, and I happen to know that the IP address is, so let's go back to my TodoBackend project here. Where is it? Here it is. Here's my IP address. So if I go that, 8091 is Couchbase. There it is. It's running. Now I can't show you the password for this. But I will log into it here off screen. The login or password. It is not administrator and password. Those of you who've watched the stream before, I use that for local, but for production, I use something way more secure. And I don't think you can even see it. Just want to make sure. Oh, well, this figures. Lost the connection. This figures is working fine until I try it on the stream. Does that mean you all have just hit it? Because when I commented on Twitter actually was because the specs of this machine are so low, like anything of like a hint of a load is likely to bring down Couchbase server, because this is definitely not a supported situation. Okay, I got logged out. So if you're watching, you know, appreciate if you not hit the server, because I thought about running some performance tests on it today to see what it could do. Okay, there we go. There's the TODO bucket running on that tiny $5 a month machine, which is definitely way below the specs. Whoa, I'm getting all blurry. Way below the normal Couchbase specs that you're supposed to have, but it is running. Not only is it running, but I've also, not right now, but I also ran .NET on the exact same VM. And what I was trying to do, I could run it right here on the console. What I was trying to do was get it to run as a process that starts up in the background when this machine boots. Because otherwise, it's just going to have to leave a putty window open while it runs, which is not what I want to do. So I'll just go here and I'll show you. I just did this the really simple way. I just did a git clone of all the source code. So it's in TodoBackend here. And so you can see there's the solution file, right? And I'll go to TodoBackend. There's the actual, here, let me do this. There's the actual, what is it? What's the command for like a tree? Can I do, no, what is it? Bash show tree files. What is the command for that? This tree structure. Oh, is it a separate thing? Oh, okay. Well, it is tree, but I don't have that installed. But that's fine. I don't need to. Anyway, you can see controllers, models, properties. The exact same thing you'd see over here, right? Controllers, models, properties, view models, all that kind of stuff is there. And then I just compiled it here. I installed .NET and I compiled it here on Ubuntu. This is maybe not the best way to do it, right? You should probably do the compiling and building on a build server and then that sort of thing. But if we go to bin here, you can see I've got release there and the netcore app 3.1. So there's all the DLL files I compiled. And then what I can do is I can say .NET run. Does it run or start? I can never remember which one it is. I don't know why. I also had to make some small changes to the app settings file, or no, not the app settings file, the startup.cs, because if you look at my source code, it is hard-coded to connect to it with administrator password, which I did not use administrator password for this one. But there you go, it is running. I also had to make a change to launch settings, properties launch settings, because it's normally going to launch this as localhost. That means only localhost can access it. I didn't want that. I want it to be accessible outside of this machine. So I exposed it there, and so there we go. Right, and then if I go over to TodoBackend again, let's go back to my client, and I'll paste that in here. This is what I was doing yesterday. So there we go. There's the back end. So I added these items last time. Spin up a VM, install Couchbase, install .NET. Now, unfortunately, anyone who's watching the stream could go to the same exact URL and start adding items to my list. I couldn't stop you. Well, there's no authentication for this at all. And that's fine. It's just an example. It's a TODO example. But there we go. So the problem I have, and you can see all this stuff's happening here. Oh, we got a fail. Object not set to an instance of an object. Oh boy, I don't know how that happened. Anywho, once I close down this putty window, that site's going to stop running. So I need to have this running as a system service. Once I have that, then even if this VM restarts, it'll spin right back up, along with Couchbase. So I don't know how to do that. I feel like I've done it before, but it's been a while since I've done that. So let me just go back through my history, see if I can remember the folder. Yeah, right here, systemd, etc/systemd/system. You can see there are a lot of stuff here. I've added this .NET TODO backend service, and I think it's safe for me to actually edit that. Let me make sure there's nothing sensitive in there. Okay, so here is this is the file that I created. This is some sort of file format that you do to define startup services in Ubuntu. I just copied this mostly from Microsoft documentation. You give it a description, and then you define the service. And this is where I start to be a little confused. So if I run this exec start, if I run this like literally on the command line, that works fine. I'm not sure about what working directory should be. These settings are all just, what Microsoft documentation said to paste in there, including this install wanted by. I don't know what that stuff even means. But if I run this, which you can see I've tried this before, and it might even be, if I can do a status on this. So systemctl, system control, status of my service, I get a fail. It failed to start that service. And with this exit code, I have no idea what this means. I don't know how to proceed from this. So that's where I was stuck last, and I kind of time boxed myself. I didn't want to dive into that too much. So anyone here use Linux and know what the heck I'm doing wrong? Tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep Googling here, or Binging, I guess. And I think I can look at this Microsoft documentation. .NET docs.microsoft.com Ubuntu, and it's like systemctl, systemd, something like that. Now, okay. The other thing is that the documentation said to use Nginx. The reason that using Nginx is so I can set up a reverse proxy server. I don't really need that. I don't think I need that for this to work. The reason I'd want to do that is if I want to have multiple services running on this machine and expose them all on port 80 with Nginx. I don't really need to do that. This is just going to be ToDo for now. I may do that later. So I don't know. Maybe I'm skipping an important thing, but so okay. Yeah, Nginx isn't much a Kestrel process. Yep, systemd can use to create a service file to start and monitor the underlying web app. That's what I'm trying to do, is just start and monitor the underlying web app. Systemd is an init system that provides many powerful features for starting, stopping, and managing processes. Okay, terrific. Okay, so create service definition. So I didn't call it Kestrel Hello App, but I created a file there. You saw that. And here's an example. And, this matches. I have mine installed in a different place. I didn't put it in var www. Maybe I need to have that. Needs to be that folder. There's a var. There's no www folder. All right, so I'd have to create that. I don't know if I want to actually do that, or do I really need to do that? I don't know. But mine is in, nano.net. Mine is in a folder called app. It's under root, because I'm logged in as a root user right now. App, and then TodoBackend, etc., to the DLL file. Okay, everything else there should match, right? So I've got restart equals always. I don't know what working directory is, or what it should be. Restart equals 10 seconds. If the .NET service crashes, it'll restart it. Sys Kill signal sigint. I don't have that on there. I don't know what the difference. I guess I could add that. Kill signal equals sigint. Syslog identifier .NET Core app. This one says .NET example. I don't know if that matters. That's just arbitrary. User equals user versus www data. Maybe this is it. Do I need to just make this root? Run this as root user? I haven't actually created any other users. Environment equals ASP.NET Core. Environment equals production. Fine. .NET print telemetry message equals false. I don't know. I care about that. Multi-user target. I don't know what that means. So let's try that. So is sudo systemctl, and I think we'll stop. Not that .net. Well, let's see. I can't remember the commands here. Oh, it's not stop. It's disable. I wanted to disable. Disable. Okay, and then I will enable it. I don't know if there's a better way to do this. Okay, and then I will start it. Okay, and then I will take a status of it. Well, look at that. I guess that did it. So just changing root user to root seems to have done the trick. Okay, so if I go back to the site and refresh, is it going to work? Not working. So why is that? Okay, so was it netconf-tc? Oh, crikey, I don't remember. See, this is one of the things about... Hey, it's Bhaskar. What's going on, Bhaskar? Good to see you. Doing some Linux today. You know anything about Linux? Ignore those Schmod 777s. Shoot. No way. You don't know anything about Linux? Okay. So is it Netstat? Kind of shows me the services, and there's a series of magical flags. I can't remember what they are. It's like 5 letters. But it's one that was very helpful to me. Not yesterday. Was it yesterday? Netstat. Netstat. I can just do Netstat and get everything, right? There's all these addresses. Some of these are probably Couchbase. So I just want to make sure that that port is open. I thought it should be, right? There's UWF. No, UFW. Yeah. This is the firewall. UFW app list. No. Okay, I don't remember how to do this, but let's see. Ubuntu, open, port, firewall, and I want to see netstats. Okay, well, this is where I was just at. Okay, that's not it. Ubuntu, open, port, firewall, netstat. Okay, ask Ubuntu. This is a very handy Stack Exchange. Netstat. This is it. TULNP. Netstat. That's TULNP. Okay, so you can see here's all the processes that are currently running in Netstat. So you can see we've got 5,000 here for .NET, 5001. So that seems fine. And then if I want to open port and firewall, it is something like sudo ufw allow 5000 TCP. Okay, so that rule already exists, I'm pretty sure. So why isn't the site working? Status. Oh, it's still saying localhost. Why is that? Okay, that's weird. TodoBackend. Okay, let me just edit this properties. Oh, so it's still got development on there. So it's just falling back to whatever it knows. Yeah, here, I'll show you. Right here. So I'm just saying development here, but I'm actually in release mode, right? So if we look back at that file, it was cats etc system.net production. So we're looking for. So I need to change this to production. Production. We save that. Okay, and then so etc system d system, and right here system, was it system CTL disable .net. Hello. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Disable.net. Okay. Systemctl enable.net. Come on. Come on, tab completion. Okay. Enable. I don't know if I have to do that or not. I'm just sort of going through, motions here. Why is the tab completion working so slowly? Come on, let's go. Okay. Just decided to lock up on me. Yes, even Linux can lock up. It's not just Windows and Mac's exclusive domain. Oh gosh. Do I have to close and come back in? I'm going to do that. Okay, open up PuTTY. Okay, and you can't see my credentials. Whoops. But I'm pasting the IP address and the actual logging as root. And I will take this password, which you cannot see, pasting it into the password. There we go. And we're back to the slower font again, or the smaller font again. Why didn't it save it? Okay. There we have it. Okay. etc system d system. Okay. System What was I doing before? I was enabling. I think I enabled. I want to just start. Okay, and then we'll take a status. Failed to parse. Still doing localhost 5001. Is there like a restart? I don't know. Looks like it. So that may be an issue with my .NET app. I may have to recompile, actually. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's still exposing it just to localhost and not to the full IP address. And it's just sort of decided to log up again. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, an exception. Operation cancel exception. That's weird. Application is shutting down. Okay. Because I was shutting it down. All right, let's just do this again. Disable. Removed. Enable. Created. Okay. Start. Okay. And then status. Okay. So it's working, but it's still localhost. So if I did, for instance, wget localhost 5000, it should work. But it's not. That's weird. Wget. Huh. Well, that should return a response no matter what. Yeah, there it is. It's finding the route, but it wasn't actually returning anything. HTTP request is sent, waiting response. Oh boy, okay. Should not take this long. That's for darn sure. See if Couchbase is still working. Yeah, still working. Still running. Well, it's really chugging along no matter whatever it's doing. Looks like a timeout to me. Let me just check here. Should be returning me something. I'm right here on the same machine as it. All right. Okay. Well, I don't know. You know, there's other ways to go about this, I think, other than systemd. Systemctl disable. Just locks up when I decide to do tab completion. Oh, that's no good. Oh gosh. I don't know what's going on now. Okay, .NET TODO backend service. Yeah, oh, okay, there we go. We're going to disable this. And then I'm just going to remove. that. So what else? What else can we do? I think I remember coming across something. There's another, like a package you can run to do this. I don't want to go too old a documentation here. This is all Nginx again. Supervisor, I think is what it was. A third-party program that can be used to monitor a process on Linux. By installing and configuring Supervisor, we can monitor a ASP.NET Core process so it starts with the operating system and restarts in the event of failure. Okay. Configure Supervisor to monitor our ASP.NET Core apps. Let me just see if that actually exists. Blueberry 078. Hello. How are you? Thanks for coming by. You know anything about Linux? So this is add contents. Oh, this is just creating a brand new application, I guess. No, sorry. That's okay. This looks kind of similar. I'm doing good as well. I am ready for another event this week, so I will not be back on Thursday. Going down to Atlanta for another event. I don't know if Supervisor is going to be any better than what I was doing before, but it's worth a try. This is kind of an older post too. 2016. This is almost 4 years old, so I don't know if Supervisor is still the best, is still a good way to do it or not. How to set up ASP.NET Core on Linux in under 2 minutes. You know what? Is there another way I can run, like, if I can just kick off .NET here and like run it in detached mode? Is that possibility? And will that actually work? Let's see. On this application run detachment, so a terminal will not hold with output screen. Like, so it still might shut down if I close the terminal, but I think it's worth a try. No hup. What is no hup? To ignore the hang-up signal. Okay. No hang-up, I guess. So what I'm trying to get at here is if I go to home and I go to app. And so what have you been up to, Blueberry? And I go in here to TodoBackend. I could just say .NET run, but let's say, I don't know, no hup. No hup.out. Okay. Doesn't really seem to be doing anything. Okay, that's nothing really happening there. I wasn't doing exactly what he was doing. No hup. Oh, I could just, okay. Release net core app. So there's the DLL file. No hup.net TodoBackend.dll .NET core.log. And what does the ampersand do? Ignoring input and redirecting standard error to standard out. Okay, let's just, does this work, period? I'm pretty sure I had it working before. Failed to create. What? .NET run. Ah. Not .NET roo. What's happening? Did I break something? maybe I should restart this machine since I might have broken something. Trying to learn myself how to make a RESTful API with Spring. Oh. Using any Spring data, Spring Boot. I know if you're, I don't remember if you're interested in Couchbase or not, but we have a Spring data component for Couchbase. All right, can I just reboot? I haven't done this before, so this will be me trying out Spinup some more. Successfully initiated reboot. Let's see what happens here. But while we're waiting for that to reboot, I think Dennis Rosa Spring Couchbase. He has a good example of this somewhere. Yep. So this is Couchbase with Spring Boot and Spring Data. And so this will show you how to set it up. So like Spring Initializer or something he talks about using. I am not a Java guy. I'm not a Spring guy at all. But yeah, that's the sort of thing you're interested in. You might want to check that out. And just in general, Dennis is a great guy to know about, to ask Spring questions to. He knows his Spring. He knows his Java. So this guy right here, Dennis Rosa, who is on Twitter. Dennis W.S. Rosa. He's based in Munich. But here he is. And so if you're interested in following him, asking him questions, sure, he'd be glad to help, whether you're doing Couchbase or not. He also came up, I came up with an idea for a sticker, and he kind of made it happen. So I'm curious your thoughts, channel, on these stickers. Which one do you think is better? Because we're trying to come up with some really fun stickers to give out at events. And I thought since El Camino just came out, uh-oh. Oh no, it's Pixelogic Dev with the raid. Let's get groovy. Welcome, Pixelogic Dev and raiders. How is everybody doing? Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Good to see you. We were just taking a little break while I was restarting a VM. And we were talking about Spring a little bit. And we got to talking about Dennis Rosa, who is great at stickers. And stickers to give away at the Couchbase booth, upcoming events. And so I thought with El Camino just came out, I'm watching some Breaking Bad episodes, and I thought, well, this would be pretty cool if we had a Couchbase server sticker in the style of Breaking Bad. So let's see. Blueberry likes the first one. This one's pretty good, but I think this one would probably be better on an actual sticker, like actually printed out. Yeah, CO Couchbase. Yeah, Cobalt and Selenium is what we're going for here. So anyway, that's what I thought. We might try both of them, and the white background kind of makes it easier to do like a die cut printout. But anyway, thank you for joining Raiders. I am checking out Spinup, which is a no frills, lightweight, flying tail brand new cloud provider, and I am trying to get a .NET Core app to run on it. Well, I've got it to run, but I'm trying to get it to run as like a background like service, so that I don't have to have my console open just to run the app. So I just rebooted it, and I'm going to have some problems with it, so I'm going to log back in now. And there's my password. And so here we go, and we'll change the settings, because that font in Putty doesn't want to seem to stay a big enough font. So there we go. So I've got a app folder, and in there I've got TodoBackend. So this is a GitHub repository with a ToDo backend. And if you want this code for yourself, Raiders, here it is. It's just a simple ToDo backend for the ToDo backend gallery, TodoBackend.com. And the idea is that you submit your implementation of a ToDo backend in lots of different technologies and databases and frameworks, And this is like a showcase. So if you wanted to start by learning something by creating a to-do app, this would be a great place for you to start. And there's no Couchbase example on here, so I thought I would go ahead and do that and build that. And I've done that successfully. Now I just need to get it hosted somewhere so that it's up and running. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this to run. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. .NET run. Okay. Let's see what happens. It shouldn't be taking this long. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now it's working. All right? And so if I go to this address here, and please, Raiders, I implore you, do not hammer this, because I'm running on a very, very tiny, inexpensive VM. But there we go. There's the backend. And so then the idea is we go to TodoBackend, take this URL, and slap it into this client here. And there we go. We've got a two-app. Hammer time. Pipe and Brock Andre, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming by. I don't know what you mean by hammer time. Stop. Hammer time?
Bing, bada, boom.
I work at McDonald's. Thank you for the follow. Do you really work at McDonald's? That's awesome. What do you do at McDonald's? I'm assuming you're not, watching the stream while you're on the fry station. Christos Mag, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate the raid and the follow from Pixelogic Dev, and this is great. Glad you're all here. So this is working. So hypothetically, right now I could take this and submit it to ToDo. To ToDo backend project. Christos Meg, hey. What do you do on that channel? On this channel, I do a lot of backend type stuff. I do like .NET, ASP.NET, C#. I do databases. I work for Couchbase. I do NoSQL, Couchbase. Do some SQL queries, SQL++, JSON, data storage, that kind of stuff. I've done background processing in the past, done Kafka, and right now I'm working on a ToDo backend. You haven't done much .NET. Well, that's okay. You're still welcome here to hang out. Every once in a while, I dip into some PHP or some front-end JavaScript. Mostly it's .NET, mostly it's C#, but trying to learn a little PHP this year. What's the language of your choice there, Christos Mag? And what is the little snowflake icon for? Oh, charity in 2018. That's cool. JavaScript and PHP for backend. Well, cool. So I've been doing some Laravel, and I've been doing some Symfony. I don't know if I've done any Laravel on the stream yet. I might have. Some Laravel and Symfony for the backend. You write TypeScript now for JS. So you're doing TypeScript. Front-end TypeScript, I assume. Oh, no. You say JS and PHP for backend. So anyway, TypeScript is your backend. Okay, that's cool. So Node, I assume. TypeScript compiled down to JavaScript, which runs on Node. Yep, there we go. Yep, I've done a little Node here and there. Actually, my coworker Eric Bichard, he's the sort of the Node, JavaScript, React guy on my team. But I'll dip in there every once in a while, mostly for front end JavaScript and TypeScript. I've kind of I haven't done a lot of that recently. I've kind of avoided TypeScript. So hypothetically, I could submit this to ToDo backend right now, and that would work. The problem is I have to have this window on my machine up and running continuously while they verify that pull request. And that's just kind of sloppy, right? So I want this to run as a background process. So any raiders that have just joined, does anybody know how to get a .NET or any process for that matter up and running as sort of a runs in the background, runs on start? Doesn't necessarily have to run on start. If I could just kick it off and close my terminal window and it still runs, I'd be happy with that. What do you think about cyberspace.dev? Is this something safe for me to click on IOStream? Because I will open it up and take a look. It looks like a game, some sort. Double click to enter the system. All right, I'll put this on the screen then. Eric, K92 says, you could use Screen. Well, tell me more about Screen, Eric. It's a game for programmers. Okay, so I've just clicked on this planet here. Cargo's out of sight. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. This is pretty cool graphics, I guess. Oh, I can move around. Okay, anyway, cyberspace.dev. Some sort of game for programmers. Interesting. Oh, there's a player. I don't know what's going on here. My first inkling is that I could use a little bit more instructions about what I'm supposed to do. But it looks pretty cool. Maybe I have to sign up or something. Sound effects, API docs. Oh, so like I have to use API to play the game? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, definitely check that out. So did you do this on your stream, on your own stream there, IO Stream 21? Okay, Eric, I want you to tell me more about Screen. What is this Screen command on Ubuntu? Thank you for the follow, IO Stream. How to use Linux Screen. Suddenly your connection drops and your work is lost. It's okay. Utility called Screen allows us to resume the sessions. Okay, so do I have Screen on this one? I do have Screen on this one. Okay, so what does Screen do? I already have installed. To start a screen session, simply type Screen in your console. This will open a screen session, create a new window, and start a shell in that window. Now that you have opened a screen, okay. Customize Linux Screen. So let's just start Screen. I don't know. Okay. It's like Tmux. Run multiple terminals in one terminal. Okay. So how do I exit? So I'm in Screen right now, I assume. .NET Run. Well, so it's not just that I want to run multiple options. If I close this program, I lose my connection. I don't want it to close down my .NET program. Okay, looks like it's running. Thank you for the follow. The Rbot, I assume. Control A, then D. Oh, so now I'm detached. Okay, interesting. If I refresh this page, it's still running. Okay. Now what if I close down this terminal? Still running. Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you very much, Eric. That's probably not something I'd recommend for production, anyone watching, but for this is absolutely perfect. So I've closed out of my console, and I'm ready to go. So this is still working. No, don't use in prod. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine for this, right? It's fine for this little TodoBackend client example. Totally fine. Most of what I'm doing in this stream today, you should not use in prod. And let me just refresh for anyone who's joined late in the raid. I'll not add project. So what I did was I created a VM using this $5 a month through Spinup. This is a very inexpensive cloud service, by the way. No frills. Simple, no fuss cloud, spinup.com. By the way, if you're interested in getting some free credit, you can use code mgroves when you go there. They were nice enough to provide that as a code. You don't have to use it, but you'll get some extra credit for that if you go to spinup.com. Anywho, I decided to spin up a Ubuntu VM in the East region. This $5 a month, 1 gigabyte RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gig storage, which is far, far, far below the minimum recommendations for Couchbase. So I'm already on the don't do this in production scenario. Couchbase is like minimum 4 gig RAM, 4 CPUs. That's like minimum per machine. I only have 1 machine, and typically you run in production at least 3 machines of Couchbase. So we're definitely in the don't do this in production situation. But that's a pretty cool trick, the screen thing. I like that. And so it is working now, and it continues to work. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And this will be fantastic. So thank you very much for your help, Eric, and Creative Nobu. Appreciate it. So we're going to go to, where was it? Yes, right here. So this is the ToDo backend site repository on GitHub. And this is a YAML file that contains a list of all the different implementations and how to get to them. And so you can see a lot of people contributed to this, 105 contributors, and there's 1,200 lines of contributions. So we're going to add our own. So I'm going to have to fork this and edit it. I can do that all on github.com without having to actually, take down a clone of it. And so I'm going to call mine ASP.NET Core 3.1 Couchbase. Description. This is not a really great editing experience so far. Description.
Bada boom.
Hey, thank you for the follow, Ryan H0123. A ToDo backend written in C# with ASP.NET Core 3.1 and Couchbase Server 6.5 as a backend. Okay, and source code. Whoops. This is really tough on the eyes. Source code URL. Can I move this up top here while I'm editing? So my eyes aren't blowing up. Okay, and now I got to point to, do you know JavaScript? I know JavaScript, yes. Now, when you say no, I won't say I'm a master of JavaScript, but I have written my fair share of JavaScript in my day. I've been writing JavaScript in some capacity since probably 2007. Are you a millionaire? I am not a millionaire, no. Not yet. I'm working on it. Why do you ask? That's sort of a weird follow-up question to, do you know JavaScript? Okay. This guy. Okay, so that is my source code URL and my live URL. This is the thing we just created thanks to Eric. Let's see. What percentage of software engineers that have been coding for 5+ years would you say are millionaires? Wow. Well, so what a question. I have no idea. But I do know that, being a millionaire means different things to different parts of the country. All right? If you're a millionaire and you live in the Bay Area, I mean, you might live in a 1,000 square foot apartment. If you're a millionaire and you live here in Grove City, Ohio, where I live, I mean, you're doing quite well. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not super comfortable telling you my net worth, what it actually is, but it's not over $1 million, not yet. Okay, live URL. Where was this? Live URL is right here, I think. And then the other thing is, coding for 5 years on what, right? Because some people will code for 5 years on their own startup, right? And they're getting investments and VC, or they're bootstrapping themselves and they're creating a product. That's a risky thing to do, right? But I mean, I've never really started my own like full-time company or anything like that, or done that kind of thing. So being a JavaScript programmer and working for somebody else, I don't think you're likely to become a millionaire going that route, at least not in 5 years. See, I'm turning 26. As soon as I started learning how to code a few months ago, I have no college degree, and I'm thinking tech has the highest upside given my limited credentials. Well, Ryan, upside, sure, maybe. People make some money in tech. My question for you is, do you like it? Do you like coding? Do you enjoy it? Is it something you're good at? Something that you could see yourself getting better at? Because to me, when I chose to go into programming, it was because I really liked programming. And then my whole life, people are like, oh, computers, that's where the money is, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess, but I just do it because I like doing it. What do you mean by bootstrapping? So bootstrapping is well, it depends on who you ask, but instead of taking venture capital money, you're sort of using your own money. You're investing your own. You have complete ownership, right? So like 37 Signals as an example of, and Bootcamp, right? They didn't take any VC money. I assume they got some investment from somebody or from their own revenue, right? But yeah, extremely low percentage. Just because one is a software developer or any job title doesn't guarantee being a millionaire. Yeah, that's true. If there was a millionaire guarantee, I mean, then people would be doing that like crazy. I honestly don't like coding, but I think if I got good at it, it would be somewhat tolerable. Oh, Ryan, so I think that's not necessarily, I'm not going to tell you what to do, right? You do what you want to do, right? That's, if you don't like it, then do something you do like. I know that's easy for me to say because I make a good living at something I like, and and I've not been in a situation where, not for a while anyway, where I've had to really worry about my next paycheck or and I did go to college, right, and I did graduate and all those sorts of things. So I can only speak from my own experience. But yeah, that's kind of a I don't know, if you don't really like it and it's going to be somewhat tolerable, like that's just not going to be. It's just not going to be. It's not going to. It's not going to be a very fun working life. I think it's not going to be a very enjoyable working life. You're going to hate going to whatever job it is. Did I go to college for computer science? Yes, I did. I went to my bachelor's degrees in computer science from Ohio University, a tiny school in Southeast Ohio, and I have a master's degree in business administration. And so I also don't want to wear a suit, which is why the work culture behind tech is appealing. Okay, interesting. So I went to my master's degree was in the suit wearing area of the world, business administration, and I did that for a number of reasons, some of which were good, some of which were not good. But it was at that point where I had to make a decision once I graduated from that. Do I want to go into the business world, marketing and brand management and stuff like that, or do I want to stick to coding? And for a period of months, I kind of mulled this over in my mind. Do I want something, an MBA in the business world? I could probably make some pretty good money doing that, but I'd have to probably give up coding for the most part. And do I want to do that? And I went to a conference, actually, CodeMash. The first time I ever went to a major tech conference, coding conference, was CodeMash. And it was that point I was like, I really like coding. I think I could probably grow to tolerate being a marketing manager somewhere, but I really do like coding. So I'm going to stick to coding for now. So different situation than you, but that's, kind of where I was. Tags. So C#, .NET. Let's see if is .NET the correct tag here. .NET all cap. Oh, okay. The other reality is that, honestly, coding can suck for some people at the beginning until something clicks for them. This is a good point, right? So yeah, I guess, if you've been coding for just a short period of time and you're like, this is awful. Yeah, maybe keep at it, because then eventually you'll get to a point where it's like, oh, this is great. This clicks for me. For me, I thought it was cool, but wasn't crazy about it at the beginning. Now I'm an SE and love it. So when you say SE coffee cup, I'm always curious. People use the SE term, and what does that stand for? I'm just concerned that because I don't have a college degree and relevant experience, I won't get anywhere regardless of how good I get at coding. Well, I mean, this is a topic, software engineer. Okay. So sometimes it's sales engineer or solutions engineer, things like that. Software engineer. Okay. So Ryan, this is often a topic of discussion on Twitter, at conferences, things like that. Like, do I need a degree to code? What kind of education do I need? And ultimately, it kind of comes down to, what's the job you're applying for, or what is it you're going to be doing? If you want to bootstrap or start your own company, you don't need a degree to do that at all. No, just start coding, build something awesome. If you want to get a job working for, Nationwide Insurance as a programmer, chances are they want you to have a degree, right? But if you want to get a job working for, a smaller consulting company in the area, in your area that specializes in JavaScript, Node applications, or whatever, they might be willing to talk to you and say, well, if you can demonstrate some experience, or if you're willing to come on as an intern, or start up in a junior position and learn as you go. Some places are definitely open to that. Bhaskar puts a link here to the Apprenti Careers program. It also depends on the kind of the market and the time and the timing, right? So like at the turn of the millennium, turn of the century, like you would be in trouble. It was tough for me with a degree to find a programming job back then, because there was so many programmers on the market and so few jobs. And these days, though, there are so many openings and so few people to fill them. So you're in a pretty good market situation right now. Big places won't. You have a degree. You may be able to get away with interning at smaller places to build up your resume with experience, though, which can transition to a full-time job at a bigger name. Yeah, I agree with that. So if you want to get a job in-house at Nationwide Insurance or the state of Ohio or whatever, you can get there eventually without a degree, but probably not entry level. This is a training program with paid opportunity, but they need to take the assessment to qualify. I've not heard of this, Bhaskar. Did you go through this, Apprenti? Did you go through this program yourself? This is looks like it's in different locations as well. So Cincinnati, Central Ohio. So Bhaskar, you've not gone through this. Or do I currently work for a tech company as a dev? I currently work for a tech company, yes, a software company called Couchbase. Couchbase.com/careers. So Couchbase.com/careers, by the way, if anyone's looking for a position out there, definitely check this out. And we have lots of openings right now and lots of different places, including remote openings. But I work for Couchbase. I work as what's called a developer advocate. So I do development, yes. I don't typically work on Couchbase software. I work on code samples and documentation, tutorials, and awareness and code that will use Couchbase. But I don't work on Couchbase server or Couchbase SDKs myself. I could, because they're open source, but it's not really part of my job description to do that. Bhaskar is partnering with them as for JS Friends. So Bhaskar's conference and meetup program. Okay. You've been a developer for 12 years and have never been asked for a degree. Of course, I cannot speak for every company out there. Yeah. Unruly Hotfixer. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. So there are lots of places, I don't know about lots, but there are places that don't necessarily need you to have a degree. It's just, you have to go find. There's not really a single answer that says you have to have a degree or you don't need a degree, or we want you to have a degree, but it doesn't have to be in computer science, that sort of thing, right? So it just depends on the company. You can start as a freelancer and no one will care about degrees, and you'll probably more likely to earn more than as a regular employee. Speaking of that, there is something I knew about a long time ago, and I've kind of fallen off with them, but TopTal.com. It's a freelance company. This is all remote work. And you can go through here, and they have a certification process. You can go through here and become a freelancer, and they'll help place you at places and things like that. So I'm going to check that as well. Does a degree in CS actually prepare you for the type of work you would do in the real world as a software engineer? Whew, what a question. Or is it more on the theory side of computers as opposed to actual programming languages they teach you? So I will tell you my experience, but the thing is, depends on what college you go to. What do they mean by computer science? Or do they mean by, they may have other degrees like it may call it computer information services, or they may call it a computer programming degree, or a software engineering degree, or a computer science degree. Lots of different names. I don't know if there's really a strict standard about that. But I will tell you, I went to a computer science degree at Ohio University. It was very math, science, heavy program. So algorithms, big O notation, logic, all that kind of stuff. It was very heavy into that. And I would say just about 75% of the stuff I took there did not really prepare me for, real world stuff. Some of my courses absolutely did prepare me, and I'm grateful for those. So I took a SQL course in college on how to SQL as a query language and relational database theory. So first, second, third, etc., normal form, all that stuff. I applied that stuff to my first job immediately. My very first job involved writing SQL and creating tables and things like that. So it was incredibly helpful. Now, what I learned in college was like an old Oracle system. And I didn't use Oracle in my first job, but I used SQL and relational data and SQL querying. And I still use SQL querying to this day, every day. So that course was incredibly valuable. And some of the other courses on like Intro to C++, Intro to object-oriented programming, those things were definitely helpful for me. But I don't use C++, I don't use Pascal, those types of things. I didn't learn C#, .NET, VB. I didn't learn those things in college. They didn't really offer those at college I went to. Let's see. As an online event, to get more details about Apprenti, I'll give you a quick plug there, Bhaskar. You're really bad at math, like horrendously bad. Anything beyond basic algebra is too much for me. I will say math can be very helpful for programming. But like it's not like crazy complicated calculus algebra type stuff that's really the big help there. It's going to be like binary stuff, logic, understanding big O notation, like a basic understanding of big O notation will be helpful to you. Why things are slow, why things are fast. Those are going. That kind of stuff is going to be helpful. Let's see. I'm not great at it, but yeah. So, generally speaking, I think math and computer programming go together, but you don't have to be a math whiz to be a good programmer. And just because you're good at math doesn't mean you'll be a good programmer, right? There's a lot of overlap there. Anyway, so if you're looking for a job, by the way, some of these aren't necessarily good entry-level places, but we are looking to hire a ton of people at Couchbase, and especially like support would be a great place for you to kind of break in, if you're looking for something entry-level, because it gives you lots of really good real-world experience like right away, and they're oftentimes a great environment to learn and get started about software. So this is a suggestion. There's lots of opportunities here. Some of these are remote, some of these are not. Math and algorithms are usually the things I get tested on in the technical interview. Yeah, the technical interview. Yes, technical interview. Can I finish my pull request here? guys are asking great questions, but I need to get this done before my time is up. Technical interviews. They are, divisive. Make sure the site's still working. It is. Because, the idea is, go on the whiteboard and show me how a linked list works. Like, that's something that I learned in college, right? How a linked list works, what a linked list is, and why, why use a linked list and things like that. And, okay, demonstrate that to me on the whiteboard, fine. But the rest of your time at this company, most likely, you're not going to be actually implementing a linked list. So what are we actually doing on this whiteboard? So, having an exercise, a coding exercise like FizzBuzz or something, I'd be happier with that, because the idea is just sort of weed out that this person has never coded a day in their life. Why are they applying for this position? Or, they were sent here by some placement agency, has no idea what they're doing. Let's just make sure they know how to write code. And not just write code like a FizzBuzz, but they know how to, they have a development tool on their computer, and they know how to, open Visual Studio, or they know how to open, IntelliJ or whatever, and compile and run a program. Just the bare minimum kind of stuff. They're really complicated. Do this on an algorithm on a whiteboard kind of thing. As long as you're not looking for this person better have the correct answer, otherwise we're disqualified. As long as you're looking for, I want to see their thought process. I want to see how they think on their feet, how they can communicate. That's okay with me. I'm fine with that. Okay, does this YAML look right? Because now we're back in the real world, and I have to figure out, am I doing the right thing with the YAML? I don't like YAML at all. Significant white space, no thank you. But that's what they're using, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, I added a example with ASP.NET and Couchbase. Propose that change. Okay, and then so I just did this change to my own fork, and now I'll create a pull request, and there we go. I think I don't need to add any more detail than that. I think it's pretty straightforward. So there we go. Now I've submitted a pull request. And this is the kind of stuff I didn't learn in college at all either. It was version control. Oh my gosh. Not even a single class on version control in all my years of college. Not a single one. But it's something I use literally every day. Sorry there, XIVLAII. My bot is not working right now. But the current project, I'll just give you a link to it right here. I'll just be a manual bot. There's the current project. I'm working on a submission to that. Version control wasn't a thing until recently. Yeah, right. Recently being what, 1970s? 1960s even? Of course, when I was in college, version control was CVS and Subversion, maybe. There was no Git. There was no, what's the Microsoft one? I don't think VSS was even around, a Bhaskar. I mean, it wasn't so popular as it is now, where everyone uses it. Well, it depends on what you mean by recently. Visual Source Safe. This was, 94. Okay, it was around when I was in college. Yeah, it's kind of mandatory now. Believe it or not, it's some places it's still not kind of mandatory. But what's the other one? Team Foundation, whatever. Team Foundations Studio. What are you saying is, TFS, Team Foundation Services, that's right. What are you saying is, neat, coffee cup? But anyway, I didn't use CVS, didn't use anything. Concurrent version systems, didn't use this. This has been around for a long time. What about Subversion? Never actually heard of VSS. Well, that's okay, Coffee Cup. You dodged a bullet. It's was not universally beloved, and it's no longer around. Oh, that's not the Subversion I'm looking for. Apache Subversion. 2000. Okay, so This came out right when I was in college. This was first released when I was in college. So there you go. But I think most people were on, probably on CVS. Maybe a little Subversion. But there was no Git when I was in college. And certainly no GitHub. SourceForge, I think, was kind of the equivalent of GitHub back in the day, which SourceForge is still around today. I have never really liked SourceForge, and look, I'm sorry anybody who likes SourceForge, but I never have a good time with SourceForge. Anywho. Okay, so I think we're done for the day. I've got my pull request in, so you can see here I've got one for ASP.NET Couchbase, and some other ones that are sort of waiting on approval here, on pull requests, but there we go. We're in. So we'll see how that shows up there on the site. Hopefully, eventually, it will be there. There may not be an icon for it. We'll see. I don't know how these icons. Maybe I'll submit a pull request for that. But then it should be a tag here, a new Couchbase tag. Should be nice. There's no ASP.NET tag. That's interesting. I don't see one there. I don't even see a .NET tag. There's one right there. Oh, there it is, .NET tag. So anyway, I'm just adding to this, and this was a pretty fun little project to do. And I got to check out Spinup in the process, spinup.com. All right, so I think that's it. We're going to call it a day. Let's go and see who we can raid, and let's keep it going. Who else is ready for a raid? We could go to C# Fritz. I raided him recently, though. Tutor Exilius, doing some Python. Code Rush,
Some wireless companies
doing a D&D map editor. Full Stack Live. Lazy Birthday DevOps stream. I don't think I've ever done Full Stack Live before. Anybody have any suggestions of who to raid? Any of these names appeal to you? We could just go to C# Fritz and raid C# Fritz again. Which, by the way, that's a great place to ask for advice and stuff as well. Lots of people in the chat there, C# Fritz. But if Jeff is good, you want to go raid Jeff? Okay, we'll raid C# Fritz. Okay, so everybody who's going to join me in the raid there, make sure to use, if you're a subscriber, make sure to use the Calvin Allen Bada Bing Bada Boom. Bada Bing Bada Boom. It's a raid. Paste that into the channel there. Be nice. If you don't have that one, you can use an emoji of your choice. But the Bada Bing Bada Boom, it's a raid. Make sure to add that. Okay, and I'll see you over in the raid. Thank you for joining me today. I'll be back again next Tuesday, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.
06. Preview 1.